morning, everybody. I don't know if I'm going to be able to follow the Red Bull show as interesting and sexy as accidents in the first curve of Formula One here, but I'm going to try my best. My name's Andrew Maher with Avaya, and I have the fun pleasure to carry a title evangelist here, and maybe by the end of the next 30 minutes you understand a little bit more what that means here. First thing I'd like to ask, though, is a show of hands, and an honest show of hands from you. How many of you have been in the communications industry for more than 15 years? Any of you more than 20? Oh yeah, I love it. This is for us. This is exactly why we're here today. So my hand was up there as well. So my story, and for those who were here at the beginning, my story is about this change of landscape of communications, where we came from with original communications to where we are today and the challenge that it's posing to us here. The original set of communications is we stood across the counter from a salesperson, from an employee, from our boss there. We sat at the desk and we communicated. We had information about that person. We had context. We could see who they are. If it was in a shopkeeper and he was selling sausages to a customer here, he could see that there are 3 children there and it's raining outdoor and knew how to adjust to the situation here. That was the original way of communications here. I started, one of the sponsors here, and I'm really happy that it's on here, with AT&T, a really small startup, at least when I worked in the mid-1990s in Germany, coming over here, and communications were starting to expand. I come from mostly a contact center, customer care background here, and call centers were growing up like flowers here. My company's changed names a couple of times over the years. The communication forms have changed. We're moving away from real-time communications. We're communicating now asynchronously. We don't have all the information we had about a person before. We have to adjust to that moment here. And now, as we all know, the types of communications and where they're coming to us here have exploded in the last 4 years. And I'm sure many of you and your businesses or your clients are struggling with, how do I manage all this communication? And now we have, of course, even some of the recent additions here, virtual assistants and the Internet of Things. What role does that play in the communications? And how do you manage that? How do you coordinate that? Statistic from 2016 showed that 68% of our digital time is spent on mobile devices. Those of you who have raised their hands at 15 or 20 years more in the industry, I know were really happy, like me, when we first got our first laptop computer, even though it weighed 8 pounds. And when we got our first mobile phone, and maybe even a smartphone, that was a really great day because it was only the bosses who had those up until then here. 68% in such a short time. We're spending almost all that time on mobile devices or tablets here. How quickly it has changed here. Gartner held their symposium just a few months ago here, and I wanted to focus on 3 points. Some of their predictions here showing that by 2020, 30% of your browsing will not be using with a screen. You think about things like your Siri, your OK Google on your phones, right? Your devices like Alexa, and I hope there's none in the room here right now, where we're talking to the internet. We're asking it to do things for it, and other ways. The billions of people that are going to be influenced by algorithms, the way we work, the way we're driven to work, smart algorithms are going to be used to adjust how we do things in our daily business here. I don't mean robots here, I mean in our normal daily driving business here. There's a couple of really interesting examples we'll come to. Ambient context is something I wanted to introduce here. In the first section of 3 I'm going to talk about here today, ambient context, and what does that mean, and how do you make use of that ambient context to drive really excellent experiences in communications. This is a story, it's a real story, at least the first half of it's a real story that happened to me last year when I was flying from Frankfurt to Berlin. Got to the airport, I don't know if that happened to you, it rarely happens to me, I forgot to check in online. That was a mistake. I was flying a low-fare carrier, so checking in at the airport is not a very fun experience. I had the app on my mobile device, I opened it up there, thought I'm going to be able to do the check-in so I can go straight to the baggage drop. I got an error on my app, on the phone there. Just said, we cannot complete your check-in. We don't know what it was. It gave me a message, and the message said, call our service center, 0800, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, I knew what was going to happen if I do that. I'm going to end up in a computer, and I'm going to have to identify myself again, and maybe at the end of it, I get a very friendly person who wants to help me, and I'm going to try to solve my problem here. And I knew this can't be the best way to solve this. What would have been a better way to solve this here is in the application, Instead of directing me to call somebody new here, transferring my data along with the call to that customer care center. The in-app transfer of data, it's doable today. If you are running businesses that have mobile applications for your customers, or if you're dealing with customers who have mobile apps here, you should be talking to them about this, enabling the integration of data transfer within the application here, seamlessly providing the solution here to the customer. This would have been an excellent experience here. I'll come back to that one in a moment. I'm going to give you stories. This is what I do as a job, is I share stories of real customers doing work with our solutions here and show you what some of them have been doing and what some of them have planned here. The abandoned shopping cart is something I think many of us who do online shopping can probably relate with. You're online, you're filling up your basket at the retailer there, but you don't check out, right? This is a problem, of course, for businesses who want to try to drive more business there, but then maybe later on you pick up your mobile phone and you call into that business, the same customer, and you want to follow up. You want to follow up and say, I want to talk about something with your business here. I get to a salesperson who at this point can see my abandoned shopping basket. A clever salesperson then is trained to say, to find out, do we want to talk about this shopping basket, or are you trying to find something new with us here? And if they find out they want to talk about some of the articles in the shopping basket, a message is sent to the customer here. They're sharing the shopping basket together here and potentially come to a quick closure. Again, ambient context, context that can get stored and retrieved at the right time in the communication cycle. So taking advantage of context, another one here is a major international luxury goods company here. They know that a majority of their customers call them from mobile devices. They know this from their segmentation, the types of customers they deal with here. So the first question they wanted to do is find out, if somebody's calling me in my customer care center, is this a mobile device that's calling me? If so, they wanted to offer a redirection. Instead of connecting the call into a live person to talk to, or wait in a queue before you get to a live person here, connect it to the mobile experience. They have a very rich mobile web experience here. They found that 90% of the customers they offered this redirection to the mobile experience accepted it. And their customer satisfaction scores increased, and of course their costs in servicing these customers went down. Those who opted out to not talk to go to the mobile experience then would transfer to a live person to communicate, but of course the data from where they were, that they're from a mobile device, perhaps some other information was transferred along with the call. Third example is a company called Catalina. They're based in Santa Clara in California. They have an application called Wixie. Wixie is an app that says they can fix your Wi-Fi. The idea of it is you install this on one of your devices in your home there, you analyze your network there to find out, do I have problems with my Wi-Fi? Or, as we often know, it's not problems with my Wi-Fi, it's the problems with my service provider. So they do the analysis of the Wi-Fi, they make some recommendations on what router you might have, maybe you need to update your router here, but they also make an analysis and do a line test on your ISP. So they're getting real information back from the ISP here, they're collecting it here. Before they met us here, and they had no experience with Avaya, before they met with us, they would present the results of this ISP line check in the screen on the application there. And they would even give the telephone number of the ISP to the person there, saying, here's the number you call, here's the IVR options, press 1, 6, 3, and 7, and then tell the nice person all of this data. Because this is what they're really going to want to know in order to be able to help you here. When we introduced what we're doing from our platform, our communications platform in the processing, they found out they could take that information from the line test, park it for the moment. If they were dealing with this ISP as a customer themselves, they could transfer all that line test information to the company. And then you get to that live agent there who already has all the information from the line test on the screen here and can go directly into your problem here. This took them 3 days to build a prototype for that to work. Back to my mobile check-in. So this would have been a great solution. The inline dialing, sending transfer of information over to the customer here would have been a great solution here, and I highly suggest you talk to your clients about doing this if it's relevant for them. But there's a better example of what should have been done here, and if we want to talk about ambient context here, mobile devices can send you a lot more information than just what's happening, what number or what page you're on here. You might have a lot of information in your back-end system. If I'm logged into a mobile application, you know a lot about me, right? I'm already authenticated. I'm in your application. If I'm in your application, I'm actually in your store, and you should treat me such. All this information is available. One piece of information in this use case would have been extremely helpful to know, and that would have been location. I was in the airport. I was standing right in front of their check-in counter here. What should have happened is they should have given me the information, just take 5 steps, you idiot, to the counter there, and they're paying a person who helps to check in people there at the airport. That's what I ended up doing anyway, because I knew that's the right solution. It was the quickest one for me. They don't have an extra cost of me busying somebody in their contact center for support. Had they used all the ambient context, we could have made a win-win both for the customer here as well as for the company. So what this means is there's a big ecosystem of connectors, information, data sources, platforms, all the rest out there that all need to be brought together here. We saw, for those of you who were in the Red Bull presentation just before, they talk about the collaboration. They talk about how quick some of this collaboration has to have. The processing, the bringing together all the different pieces of data and information there that you can process in real time there. You need a platform on which you can make those decisions here. And from Avaya and our perspective here, we say you have to design these solutions with the user first in context, not what your IT infrastructure gives you. You have to build for the user. You have to build for the customer, because they're the ones who are going to drive the successes of your businesses here. Second piece, I'd like to talk about a little bit of artificial intelligence, because it's getting a lot of interest and there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of questions about it here. But we say that AI-powered and contextually enhanced messaging solutions. Messaging is something I'll focus on a little bit here because it's got a lot of interest for the last year from some announcements here. And I'd like to show you a little bit of what some of our customers are doing. AI is something many of you probably already have access with or you're interested with. You might have an Alexa in your home, or you might have a Google Home. You might be using things like I like to use Spotify. If you ever clicked on the suggested playlist, it's all artificial intelligence driven. They're analyzing my interest in listening to music here. They're comparing it to similar people do that. They're mashing it together in solutions here and presenting me every week with a new playlist. It's amazing of the new songs I can sometimes find. So the changing communications, I think of messaging here, and I spent the last 6 years talking a lot about social media and communications with companies here, and everybody thought originally social media is a fad, it's going to go away. Of course, it's grown and grown and grown, but what we've now seen in the last year is that the role of messaging, instant messaging, SMSs, WhatsApp, Facebook messengers, and the rest of the applications around the world has eclipsed the number of users that are using even social networks here. This is where the communications for most of you are happening. CEO of Microsoft here last year at their users conference here commented that he sees this conversational interface as being the next user interface. For those of you old enough in the room here, you remember the days. Let's start with the text line entry of interfaces there. We got the graphical interface later on, where then you can move things around, or you could click here. But now you can talk to things. Now you can type to them here. They can understand you using natural language processing and other tools here, and respond to you here. How would it be for an operation, for a company who has maybe a mobile app? If it's a bank here, banking is very secure. They're very worried about doing things on public social networks and messaging here. But what if their application had an intelligent chat engine within the application, where I just open up my banking app, I authenticate myself by whatever means that are necessary there, and then I am presented with a chat window. What do I want to do? In this case, I want to transfer some money. The bank knows certain things about me. They might know the person I'm trying to transfer to. They might know the level that I've already approved. Say if anything's under a certain level, it's automatically approved here, and they take care of it. That's the way banking can be. This takes away one of those problems that I skipped on the report from Gartner here, is 20% of the companies will be moving away from applications. They don't see the ROI in building apps. Applications are expensive. They're expensive to maintain. To build really good apps take a lot of know-how and a lot of energy here, and the user is always expecting something new. So why not use smart communication and conversational technologies, whether it's text or voice here? What about building an Alexa skill to talk about to your airline here to find out, is my flight on time here? Chatbots is a big word. A lot of people are interested in here. Avaya has been very busy with chatbots on a lot of different platforms. Chatbots are important. They don't only have to be these social bots. We're also doing them on simple SMSs here. We find a lot of users doing it there. We have a lot of experience. We've been doing this for a number of years in 31 languages around the world. Information. If you're interested in more about chatbots, please come to us. We're right outside the door at the stand. More than happy to talk to you. It's a really hot, interesting subject here. There are some misunderstandings that I'd love to help clear them up if you're interested. One of our first examples, I think it was last year, came out in Dubai here, was a virtual bank assistant called Ava. Right? Without typing into anything, without using a screen, just speaking to a virtual agent, being able to do your banking. You're standing there at the terminal, it's talking to you, you're talking back to it, it's analyzing your language, you can do your balance transfers, you can check the information on your bank here, all without not touching anything at the bank here from the Emirates in DB. Where else would this artificial intelligence play a role? We're seeing it a lot in process assistants here, or agent assistants. Users, and I use customers a lot and agents because it's just in my DNA, but this could be users in your business here or handling calls from colleagues here, analyzing the type of the call, analyzing what's happening in the call, the words that are being used, popping up dynamic information on a screen. This doesn't have to be just in a contact center scenario here. It's something that is already being done today by customers here. Looking up for knowledge bases. You as companies often have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of knowledge-based articles stored across your networks here. How do you find the relevant information at the right time here? Is it just searching through directories here? We can take advantage of machine learning and natural language understanding here to access those better. It's another example of process assistance and analyzing information. I took a picture of my breakfast a few months ago here, which is not a very fancy, pretty picture here, but I put this picture into Google's Cloud Vision, and then it analyzed it, and within seconds it came back with its analysis. And even though the picture wasn't that clear, wasn't that perfect, it got a pretty good analysis here. How could this be applied to your business? We have customers in the insurance industry, where customers are sending in photographs of damages, whatever it might be, a car, a window, a vase, be analyzed automatically here using APIs like this. Some of these are free, right? Already giving some insight into what the content of that article is here to the user here, right before a person even starts looking into the case here. Third piece I'd like to talk about is the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things is something that's coming up on us as an industry extremely quickly. So communications enabling the Internet of Things is something we see as one of the next big challenges we're all going to have to be looking into. How many things are out there, the points of these devices are exploding, and which of those need to have a communication infrastructure, at least access to that infrastructure is growing in the need here. A couple of examples, one from Switzerland, a company called NOVAALERT. They specialize in alerting, messaging, and evacuations. So they have campuses, buildings, airports where they're monitoring all the devices, fires, emergencies, things like that, and they coordinate all those signals across the campus here and help drive the responders on site of these places here to quickly react to those sort of things. This is their world. They've been working with Avaya for 20 years as well. Their world, and many of you might understand this, is a CTI world, right? Building integrations into PBXs here. Right? It's a voice-centric world from the beginning here, and they've been very successful. And I met with the CEO earlier this year, and he said, we could build against any application. As long as there's some sort of access, we could build it. But it's very costly, and it takes a long time, and it might just be for one client. The triggers he can take today are very limited, and the outputs he has are very limited. When we propose to him what we can do with our open platform and the open APIs, with zero education necessary, he suddenly has this world of opportunity available to him here. He now will go on record and say he sees so many opportunities to expand his own business here, which was relatively niche to go to here, to be able to accept triggers from a multitude of systems, which we can't even list them all on the slides here. He and his team took 3 days to build their prototype onto our platform here, rolling out to customers. Another one here is from Engelbart Software in Germany. We've been working with them quite a bit here. They just wanted to create a prototype of an IoT. I think the managing director, he has his own Tesla, and he wanted to play with it and use it as a use case here. But what they built is every 10 seconds, they're pinging the status of his Tesla. Where it is, what is it doing? If something changes on the car, like maybe the air conditioning gets turned on or the location changes, it triggers an information to his server. So what this shows you here is his world he already had defined. His eSuites was his application, his world. He's been doing that for 15 years. He just created a simple connector to the external world here. If a trigger is met, what happens at this point, it locates his cell phone. Because they know the cell phone, they know his car, they do a location on it. If it's not at the same location, it sends off a trigger. This is the communications enabling of IoT. It started just with information from an object. It went to analysis workflow engine here. And the intelligent application behind it said, something needs to happen. I need to let somebody know, or I need to include the owner themselves here of the change here. Last example, this one here is from Netherlands, from the 112. We're doing quite a bit of work in emergency services and this here. And this specific example had to do with eCall, eCar. You might be familiar with this in 2018. All new cars will have to be set up with a trigger that automatically can inform of an accident. It's coming out next year. We worked with the Netherlands 112. You know this scenario here, what happens here today. You have an accident, you call, there's two questions you get asked. One of the most important one is, where are you? If you're in this lake and it's frozen, the last thing you're thinking about is, what lake might I be in here? This is the problem that most emergency services have today. This is just reality that they deal with. They wanted to go fix this problem here. So we took our application layer there and we said, we can also take information out of the eCall, location information, do lookup, and provide all that along with the voice channel there to the responders. So we have an exact location of what's going on that's already been rolled out in the Netherlands. Two important very things. These are really, public service, public industry is a very difficult business to get something innovative into. And if any of you work in that, you know very well this is very hard to do. And we've also triggered some transformation for this whole industry. My last example is not a real Avaya example, but it might be one. And I thought it was quite useful. In my world of surfing the webs, I ran into this on YouTube. And Lou from Unbox Therapy said I can use a screen grab of this here. He was showing off from Pizza Hut a pair of tennis shoes. These pair of tennis shoes you can order pizza with. Internet of Things, if you want. There's a button in the fob of the shoe there. If you push it, it's connected to his smartphone who has the device, makes an order. High tech it's not. Marketing did a good job of creating something that looks really good. But I said, what happens if you're playing basketball and you're getting kicked around a lot and you've just ordered 20 pizzas? How does that Pizza Hut now communicate back to the owner of those shoes? That's where you need an application and a processing engine here that can analyze the situation, recognize something unusual potentially is happening here, and know how to get back to that person on the right device in the right way. All that in real time. Last things, we talk about platforms. There's lots of things moving around in the communications industry out there. Many of them are affecting you, or you're talking about them, or you're being asked about them now. Please come, ask us these questions here. It's all about connecting all these pieces together. Connecting them intelligently on an open platform with open APIs here. Back to where I began. This is my history. Don't know where we're going to go. If you ask me what's coming next beyond this, I have no idea, and I don't really want to even try thinking about it. If you asked me 5 years ago, what was the hottest thing we were talking in unified communications? It was video. Everyone's going to do video. Now, we do a lot of video, but who saw what all happened in the last 5 years? But what really has to happen with all this here, and where this all has to go, is that original way we communicated with people, using all the information we know, the ambient context and the rest there, and creating those experiences that we all know is what we really want to have. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.